So we are well and truly into ride season. The sun is out and I'm super excited to hit the trails, and all the more so because we have just received this amazing offer from LOOK. So this is a first peek at their new gravel bike that they're bringing out. So that is super up my alley and I'm super stoked that we've got this in a size small, so I get to have a look at it. This bike is interesting because it is coming in at a really interesting price point. So the Frameset is coming in at £2,300, which for a carbon gravel bike is not bad at all. And we're going to see how we're going to build that up and take a look. Okay, so this is the standard LS1 seat post that we see on the 785 and the 765. Standard round seat post, so that's nice, keeps it nice and flexible for any future builds you might want to do. There's the seat post wedge, that's what I've been looking for. You can see this seat post clamp has come pre-lithium greased with a little splodge on there. We're going to wipe that off and just put something a little bit more map deck in there. And I will ensure there's a little bit on the outside here as well for anti-corrosion properties. But we want to make sure that this surface, which is going to be in contact with this carbon seat post, we want to make sure that that is exclusively carbon grip paste and not grease. Okay, now that we've got a seat post in place, I'm going to put a rag in here, protect that seat post, and then we can get all of this packaging off and see what it really looks like. Given that I now have access to the UDH port there, I'm going to install that and get the mech on it before it dangles around and bangs something it shouldn't. So we've got the SRAM Force T-type mech here, so that'll go directly into the UDH hole there in the frame, make it nice and solid. So we got the Super Zero. It's the gravel version, so we've got a little bit of flare on there as well. Extra hand there while I drop all the bolts on the floor.
Chris never helps me like this.
It sounds like you need a new cameraman. So this little guy, obviously we know these are super important. So if you do drop all of your stem plate bolts when you're doing your build, just remember to find them again and make sure all the washers are present and correct, because it will affect the torque setting of your bar. So again, all of these settings currently are going to be fairly loose. We can't really see what position we want yet. So this is a size small. It's spec'd with a 400 millimeter bar, which is maybe relatively wide, but it's a data 40, that's correct. So data measure their bar outside to outside instead of what everybody else in the world do, which is measuring center to center, which means this is effectively 38 millimeters on the top, but it will still come up as a 40 for data. And we've got a little bit of flare on the bottom as well, so that'll give you that extra stability. Okay, now that everything's secure, we can actually have a proper look at the paint job. Ooh, so we've got a really good access pocket in there. That's going to make any internal routing really easy because we can just see where everything's going in there. I am really loving the look of this kind of speckled design. Totally my vibe. Nice. So before we get all the wheels and stuff on here, we're going to have a little bit more of a closer look at some of the build quality. So it's nice that they've kind of done it with the SRAM Force on there. I can see why they've chosen that for like good gravel group set. We've got a nice hefty cassette. They've opted for fulcrum wheels, which is not something that we see a lot of in the UK. We do struggle to get hold of spares and bits and pieces for fulcrum. So it's an interesting choice. I'm not sure if I was doing a custom build if I would go for that, but we'll see how they ride. First impressions here, we've got a really versatile looking frame. We've obviously got the little storage hatch in there, which is fun, with a bottle cage mount on top, another bottle cage here, and we've also got kind of top tube storage there for any of those like specialized custom bags that you might get, or another bottle cage if that's your jam. We've got quite a lot of versatility down here. We've got a front mech option there, and we've got a mount that comes with your kit. So that's super easy to fit, and we can see a really nice little port there for a Di2 option if you wanted to run Shimano on here. We've also got down at the rear end, we've got a port back here. So that's your Di2 routing hole. Looks nice and large, so that wouldn't pose any issues. We've also got something going on here, so that I would assume is for mechanical routing. We can investigate that a little bit later. And this also comes with various different frame bungs that you can use for those Di2 cables as well. So that one is a replacement fitting for there, so if you did want to run a mechanical rear derailleur, you do also have that option. Interestingly, I'm not sure that we have the same versatility for a front mech. I can't see any cable route in there that would work with any kind of cabled front mech. So an interesting choice on that regard. So this bottom bracket crank system has not been set up for use from factory, so that's worth noting if you were going to buy one of these direct. But there's also a chance that because we've got this as a demo bike, maybe they just didn't bother. So So I'm gonna carefully put a lot of pressure on this. Oh, it's not that tight. So I'm liking this T47 internal, keeps the bearings nice and protected. Yeah, so it's feeling like a pretty good fit. So we've got a nice faced shell surface there, so the notches of that bottom bracket are gonna fit nicely on there, we're nice and flat. So we can see that, yeah, we've got little slots under here so we can see what the brake hoses are doing, which is helpful when it comes to build. We can inspect them for any wear and tear, but we also know that we've got a solid tube going all the way through the bike, and that's going to give us some rigidity. It's making sure that we're not going to lose any threads at any point if we were to mess up a build. So we're going to just have a little look at the inside of this bike, see what the carbon looks like. It's looking pretty smooth to me. So we're going to come up against that, we've got the brake hose there, we've got, probably going to hit the end of that little bag at some point. It's looking really nice. And we're going to also have a little look down this Di2 port. So one of the banes of our lives when we're building these bikes is you try and force a cable down and it just won't go. So we're going to have a little look and see what that looks like too. That's looking really open and smooth. So here's the point where the chainstay has been joined, which is really close to the bottom bracket actually. So that looks like it would be not a problem at all in terms of routing, and it looks really solid and nice and clean. So we are now going to reinstall this guy, and we're going to get the torque wrench out and make sure that it is fully torqued up. Really, really nice, really smooth, straight in one. 50 Newton meters. So we've got it written on there, 50 Newton meters tight. So that's where we're going. So we've got here a dub wide crankset. So this is the special kind of gravel edition of the force group set, slightly wider spacing for the chain line. And that's partly done to try and clear the chainstay a little bit and make us room for wider tyre clearances usually. So we'll talk a little bit more about tyre clearance in a minute. God, this all goes together really nicely. It's all aligned, it's all beautiful. On this one, we're going to 54 Newton meters. So that's really nice actually. We're on 165 crank on this size small, and that's kind of where I'd want us to be seeing it. You know, it's not that common yet to see 160s on a stock build, but you know, at least they've thought about it. So now we've checked out the inside of the frame, we've checked out the bottom bracket, and I'm pretty happy with all of that. Time to check out the brake mounts. Just going to pop them off and see how much attention has been placed on this part of the bike. Yeah, they've definitely had some attention. Potentially a little bit of a lip around the edges, but that's definitely been faced. So they've also done the same attention to detail on the bottom of the frame, which sometimes gets overlooked and can cause issues for bolt head seating, but not in this case. So while we've got the bike up like this, it's a really good time for us to inspect kind of the headset system. We've got classic looks gone with a token kind of bearing system and top cap system, which means that it's really versatile and we can integrate with all sorts of different stem and bar combinations, which is great. It's quite a high stack on there, like number of spaces here. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 centimeters there. That's a lot more than you would normally get as recommended on a stock build. So if that is indeed something they recommend running, that's quite impressive and gives you a lot more versatility in terms of the kind of riding position that you can achieve with one of these frames. So if you're somebody that likes a very short reach, but you still want kind of some height to your bars, this frame might be a good option for you in this kind of geometry. Let's have a quick look at those bearing surfaces and make sure that's all to the same standard as the rest of the build. So this was actually sticking out of the steer a little bit, which meant the bearing preload had not been set, or potentially it had been over tightened and pulled the bung out a little bit, but that's popping off super nicely now. We've got all of these interlocking spaces, so there's not going to be any movement from those. Oh, and they do that. So you can get them off really easily. Nice. So we've got in here 40.5 by 49.5 by 6.5. So we've got a token bearing in there. Stainless steel it looks like, and there is a fair bit of grease in there. It feels pretty smooth. We've got some face into the underside of the head tube as well. We've got that on both ends. So we've got here the wheel set. So like we said before, these are Fulcrum Sonic. We've obviously got some nice kind of aerodynamic stuff on there, which may be a little bit overkill for a gravel bike, but we'll see. We've got on there, you know, it's a two-way fit. That's just their way of saying you can put a tube in it or you can run it tubeless. So we've got here the size here. It's a 700C, so a 622 is your ETRTO number, and 25mm internal for a hooked rim. The clearance for this frame is up to 50mm. We've been supplied with a 45mm tyre, so we could go a little bit bigger in theory. Tyres they've supplied, nothing particularly special, but I'm sure they'll be fine. And we've got nice touch, real, genuine SRAM rotors, because that is a place that you could save a little bit of money if you were looking to. We have actually got a full genuine SRAM build on here. Right, so we've got some air in these wheels. We'll have to top them up by hand because the valves are too short for our compressor to work. I need to find the axles. So we've got the front axle that came pre-installed on the bike. Got to find the rear one, so at the same time we may as well go through this box of tricks. There's our rear axle, we will put that to one side. We definitely need that. A couple of regulation things. Oh, we've got a headset shim for the token bung there, and we've got a Di2 battery holder, so if you did want to run Shimano in there, you absolutely can. You've got all kind of guidebooks that probably came with all of these bits. We've got in there a saddle. I'm actually going to take this out and have a look. So it's Look branded by Cell San Marco, so definitely imagine doing worse for a first stock saddle. Got our hanger bits that we know about. Got some Look branded bar tape. Beautiful. And we of course have our SRAM battery kit. So you've got the charger in there, instructions on how to use it. We've taken the battery out and put it on charge. So we did find our axle, so we're going to get that installed. This comes pre-greased, that's nice.
It's springtime, it's the Bordeaux Valley.
We're riding bikes.
Hannah's got a new bike. Love all your clothing's matching today.
Yeah, this is like legit my favourite.
So Hannah, you're used to riding a fairly bike packing orientated titanium gravel bike.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy, I'm not gonna lie.
You'd be flying, literally ripping my legs off the hills.
This is so fun. It's really light and it's really capable. I'm not really used to that. I've ridden this valley a lot on my titanium machine, which is fantastic and fun in its own way, but this is just whipping around, which is great.
Like every little rise, you just like put some power down. See you later. It's brilliant. I love it.
So yeah, it's super stiff and it's super light, which is really nice in a gravel bike. Really compromising on the geometry, so we've still got quite a lot of capability for descending and stuff, where I was a little bit concerned at this kind of stack height that we had on the front, but I think actually it's working all right, even though I've not cut it. So I think the small might cater for quite a lot of different variants of small, if you get
I think you'd be better on a medium.
Potentially for this style.
I think so, because you get quite a lot of flex if you had that much stack, that you could do it. But it's interesting that they put that much stack on, because normally a brand will stipulate 3.5 centimetres max. So it's pretty brave of Look to say, yeah, you can have 5 centimetres if you want. Tell us about these wheels. That's the first time we've really seen them, but you've done some research since then.
So the Fulcrum Sonic wheel set's the 2-wave pattern they've got on there. So we alternate between 42mm and 47mm depth on that rim. And it's the kind of younger brother / cousin of the Shark wheel set that they developed for gravel racing. So this has got like quite a specialised carbon layup technology. The Sonic is a slightly less sophisticated version of that, but in doing that, we've lost £500 off the price, and we've only compromised with about 150 grams in weight. So it seems like it's a reasonably good, cost-effective solution if you're wanting to ride gravel and go fast.
So it seems very robust. Like in your hands, like normally with a set of like really lightweight road wheels, you can feel there's got some squidge to them. They feel solid, actually, like a good all-road set.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kicking up pebbles and stuff, and I'm not worried.
And apparently this wavy design has got more to do with vibrations more than it has to do with crosswind stability, according to their... So,
I would imagine that given the focus of this wheel set, it's a little bit of both. So we are aiming at like fast racing. It's not your typical, I mean, probably the kind of terrain that we're riding here is probably not like optimum to get the best out of this bike. I think it's probably like your fast European Princess Gravel race type bike. But that said, with some knobblier tyres on there, I think can probably handle it.
Far off, the geometry's right. It's got a nice slag head angle, it's got long chain stays. The wheels are pretty aggressive, 50mm tyre clearance. It can do some pretty, what we call chunky gravel if we wanted to.
Absolutely. There's definitely been moments where I've not quite had confidence in the tyres, but I don't think that's really to do with the geometry. It's
not what you're used to, their little file tread, but just something a little bit more like mountain bike tyres for it.
Yeah, I mean, if we think about what's running on the Assassin, which is our companion bike today, much chunkier, a lot more capable on some of the rougher, rockier stuff that we're riding at the moment.
For the price, it's very versatile, I feel. I mean, it hasn't really got that many rack mounts to it, but it's got enough. You could do a decent bike packing trip on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you'd keep it pretty minimal, but again, like if we're thinking about bike pack racing, where you maybe have like a tail fin on there, That doesn't require any mounts for you. That seat post, we've got a round seat post, so that gives us kind of the stability for running a seat pack on there. We've got that top bag mount as well, and we could stick a frame bag in there, bar bag, so none of those are going to be problematic. So bike packing setup, I think you would be okay, yeah.
I like the fact that the frame only is £2,300. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
You can make it. And this is a pretty optimized aero wheels, aero handlebars, force group set, etc. But you could really put like a suspension seat post on there and like some aluminium bars, hang stuff off it. You could do whatever you want with it, really.
You could
do quite a lot.
Really like make your own machine out of this thing, and you wouldn't even have to go for your carbon wheel set, and you'd still have quite a light rig.
Quite fun, isn't it? Lightweight bikes.
Oh, it's super fun. You never get to ride them all wet.
There's definitely a little bit of like titanium. I mean, like, yeah, but come on, carbon's fun, isn't it? Every now and then.
Carbon absolutely is fun. I do love the fact that I know I can throw my titanium bike down a rocky slope and it will survive. I don't think I would have the same confidence with a carbon gravel bike like this.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine?
It'll be fine.
All right, well, maybe I just need to experience that once.
I've never broken one. Yet.
Hannah has had an absolute blast riding this. I'm kind of jealous. This is my overview review of this bike. And if I had to sum it up in one sentence, it would be, there's nothing here not to like. Everything is pretty standard, but just finished off to a really nice quality at a really reasonable price, I think. So one, it just looks like a gravel bike. There's no design aesthetics here that really scream and shout unusual to you, like 3T for instance. And then things like token headset, dead easy. You can fit quite a variety of handlebars to that situation. It's a standard round steerer tube. LS3 stem works really well, and you get a whole bunch of sizes. You can really make that fit. Standard 27.2 seat post on a seat clamp design that we know works from the 765 and the 785. A T47 internal bottom bracket, fully sleeved, fits really well. And then all the mounting options you'd possibly want. You know, you can do mechanical, you can do electric. It kind of ticks boxes at a pretty cool price. So for me, this is like, well done, Look. It sounds like you've been listening. Just do, you know, nice bikes, nicely finished with good durable features. Here we go. The Look G85. If you want one, get in touch. Links down below.